Hello everyone, hope we are doing well. I'm pleased to be joined by Costa from Gate 7 International to get the latest on Olympiacos. Who are they? What can we expect on Thursday? And how are they feeling? Are the Olympiacos fans confident ahead of this one? But Costa, how are you doing?
Doing all right, mate. Thanks very much for the invitation. Happy to be here. Happy to be on a English-speaking channel ahead of a big European game. Thanks again.
Now, you're actually London-born, but you support Olympiacos. Tell me about
that. So it's one of those things that's passed down from generation to generation. But I do remember going to my first football game in London. It was at the old Highbury Stadium, Arsenal-Everton game. Some Everton fans that lived in London, and I remember it being quite boring. You know, I think it was in drab George Graham 0-0 game. And anyway, I think that summer my dad took me to first football game in Greece, and I remember going in and seeing and feeling the atmosphere and thinking, fucking hell, this is mad. And Greek stadiums are known for their fervent atmospheres. I'm sure that's something we'll talk about. Of course, we're a people that we can be quite extreme in our emotions, both in terms of going a bit overboard and on the flip side too. So yeah, it's just a different experience when you go to a Greek football match, and it's definitely something that I, all the guys that I grew up with back in London, it's one of those things that I say, before you die, you've got to go and watch a Greek derby or experience it from inside the stadium in a big game.
Love that. Right, let's talk about your team first of all. How's the season going so far?
So there's a lot of context to Olympiacos this season because we're coming off of one of our worst seasons in modern history. We signed a lot of players last season that were failures. We're expected to win the league every season, right? It's an expectation at this club from the top to the bottom. Every season we should win the league. We should be competing to win the double and be in Europe in January. And we failed on all fronts. We won nothing last season. We finished fourth in the group stage. We finished third in the league. So very, very disappointing season. We offloaded more than 25 players during the summer. We brought in 15 new players. So Olympiacos is a team in transition. We brought in a new technical director, a new manager at the start of the season, Spanish coach with some years of experience in La Liga. We've done well in the league. We're undefeated in the league so far, been scoring goals in the league. In Europe, it's been a bit more tricky. We were, in my view, quite lucky to get past Genk. You need a bit of luck. That was in the third round qualifier. And then in the playoff, it was quite easy against Serbian side Karaiskakis, who we offloaded. I think it was 6-1. So, if you look at our first two games in the group, the game against Freiburg at home, it's a game we should have won. If you look at statistics, our attacking press, just, the cheap goals that we conceded, we're disappointed that we didn't even get a point in that game against Freiburg. Their manager came out after the press conference and said, I would have been happy to leave here with a draw after the result that they got, 3-2. And then the next game against Topola in Serbia, we were 2-0 up. Then we got a red card and we conceded, again, 2 cheap goals. So it's, a point from 2 games, and it's really disappointing start to the European campaign. I have my own opinion, of course, being a team in transition. I think that while we may be the team with the highest European pedigree, I think realistically for us, we should be looking to finish this group in third, and if possible to, get a second place given where we are now. So, that sets up a really big game tomorrow, Thursday, against you guys, against, for everyone, at least, talking to Greek fans, Olympiacos fans, everyone looks at this group as a group that West Ham should be winning, and we should be getting the second place. But you never know in football. So it's been a funny start to the season. better than last season, but again, emphasis on Olympiacos really being a team in transition, and I don't really know fully what to expect tomorrow.
Well, how happy are you happy so far? Because from an outsider looking in, I look at the league table, I think, well, you've got to be happy with that. You've only conceded 2 goals in 7 games, like you said, unbeaten, 19 points on the board. But in terms of how the new coach is going about his business, are you happy with what you're seeing?
It's for me a bit too early to tell, in a sense that there are some things that we can see early on in terms of how he likes to set up his teams and how he likes to how he wants us to play. A lot of emphasis on high press, intensity, and it being early on in the season, it's still late October. Their legs aren't fully free, let's say, even from pre-season. They're still finding a groove, still finding a way to play with each other. Our centre-back pairing hasn't been solidified. Generally, our back four isn't solidified. Our left back's been changing from one game to another. Our centre-back pairing's been changing. In European games, we've been playing with Retsos and Freire. Retsos is really our stalwart in defence. Like, he's the one that will be there every game. And then the partner switches from league games to European games. So that doesn't help when you're building up a new team, when you haven't solidified your back four. So that's a concern. But otherwise, like last season, we were very hard to watch. Sometimes painful, just painful on the eyes going forward. But this season, we're scoring goals, but we're leaking at the back because we're still connecting creating the chemistry and finding the right spacing between the midfield and the defense and the defensive partnership and the back four in general. So that's a little bit of a insight into the mold of the team. But at the moment, we have a luxury / problem in that we have a lot of options up front. Behind the striker, we've got players like Padence, who we brought back in from Wolves, a former player of ours. He knows the expectations. He knows what the fans want, what's expected of him. Players like Georgios Masouras, who's been around for a long time, Greek international. Costa Fortounis. He's our prolific attacking midfielder, youth product of the team. He's 29 years old. He was linked to West Ham a few years ago for a big transfer move to the Premier League. That's before he ruptured his ACL. He signed an extension deal in the end with Olympiacos, turned down a move to West Ham. You guys signed Pablo Fornals as his, I think he was your number 2 in your list. So there's a lot of good attacking options that we have. But even there, now that we have the 5 subs instead of the 3, it's one of those things where the coach is like, oh, I've got all these options, I'm going to use them. And sometimes it messes with the chemistry, because it's not a team that's played together for a couple of years that know each other as well as, a team like yours that's being built brick by brick over the last 3 years with consistent appearances in Europe. So you don't know what to expect as an Olympiacos fan. You hope that we come out on the front foot, that we employ that high intensity, high press, force some errors at the back, and then get some goals. There are a couple of players, or one player in particular in midfield, that we hope will start on Thursday. His name's Santiago Hesse. He's a 22-year-old Argentinian that we signed from Huracan for 4 million euros. That's a lot of money for Greek standards, nothing for a Premier League side. He's really important for us because he's the guy that brings the press. He's the guy that fills the gaps. He's aggressive, in the challenge. He's good at intercepting the ball and breaking up the opposition play and then getting us ready for the attacking transition. So he's a really important player for us, and I think those are already quite a few insights into our issues, how we play, etc.
Yeah, I'm loving this. So just as a quick number guess, rather than trying to work it out, on tomorrow night when you line up, out the starting 11, how many players do you think will be new signings that you made in the summer?
Yeah, good question. So I was thinking about this earlier. If you let me turn the question on its head slightly. If you look at our starting 11 in Europe last season and compare it to this season, there are 2 players that were starters.
Okay.
Or maybe even 1, because the goalkeeper changed from the qualifiers last season.
Brilliant.
Stage. So Paskalakis is our goalkeeper. He became a regular after, I think, like the first fixture of the group stage last season. And the other like starter is Masouras, really. There is a question mark tomorrow about whether or not we might play with 3 in midfield. It's not something that the coach has done. He's very stubborn in how he wants to set up the team and the way he wants to play, that I personally will be surprised if he chooses to beef up the midfield. If that happens, maybe Masouras doesn't play. So it could be a whole new starting 11 compared to last season.
What formation does he usually play then?
It's like a 4-2-2-2.
Okay.
So we don't really have, who does these days, like have traditional wingers.
Yeah.
Like when you see the lineup as UEFA presents it or as we present it, it looks like a 4-2-3-1 formation. So there's definitely like those 2 centre mids that play next to each other. There's no holding player as such. And then there's Fortounis traditionally starting on the left, but he'll occupy the spaces in the middle. You might see him on the right-hand side. Pedense will come and combine with him on the right, or might switch position and go out to the left when Fortounis has come out to the right. And then Masouras, who's pictured on the left, will be playing higher up next to our striker. So it might even look like a 4-4-2 where we've got 2 strikers that are starting the press high, and then the midfielders behind, like playing high up the field to try and steal balls and force errors and get the ball into your penalty area quickly to look to threaten.
Well, I feel well prepared. We do a build-up show before the game, so I feel well prepared for doing the build-up show. When the lineup comes out, say, they'll be playing a 4-2-2-2-2. Let me just read out the lineup. So thank you very much. I'm getting the knowledge here. Right, from your team to my team, what's your thoughts on West Ham?
I think it's, like I said earlier, you're a team that's been playing in Europe consistently now for 3 seasons. If I'm not mistaken, you obviously won the Conference League last season, and I think that's no small feat for for a club like West Ham. Like no disrespect, like it's not a club that has historic, let's say, or a European pedigree, for lack of a better word, but it's a proper team, man, and I think that's what that's where you see success in Europe. It's not always about the big name signings and big money transfers. It's about how you build a team. And I mean, you look at some of the players that are on that are in your starting 11 or your key players, like Jared Bowen. He's not a household name, or like maybe a lot of people outside of England don't know who he is, but he's really bloody good. Like if you look at his statistics and the amount of goals that he scores and the positions that he gets into on the pitch, he's a player that you see him and you think, that's their winger. It's like, he's not really a winger. He's more like a wide forward that likes to get into the box. He reminds me a bit of Stelios Giannakopoulos. I don't know if you remember him. He played for us and played for Bolton. Played for Bolton when Bolton were, a side that was qualifying for Europe consistently under Sam Allardyce. Is that kind of player. So he's a player that I really like. I really fancy in your team. Antonio is a player that I know well. Been with you guys for years. He's a pest up front. Like he's big and strong, and he'll get in between defenders and cause trouble. It's a side that's changed a lot over the years. West Ham. I'm more accustomed with West Ham, like Marlon Harewood's kind of Mark Noble. Those kinds of players are players that come to my mind when I think of West Ham. But the way you guys play nowadays is much more kind of like cultured, if that's even the right word, more European way of playing, like the ball on the ground and building up from the back, not hoofing the ball long. So, you know, I think West Ham have made great strides forward in both in domestic competition and in European. So you guys have got a lot to be proud of.
Before I ask you how you see tomorrow night's game going, I've seen a social media post from your Twitter account. I'm not saying it was you, but your Twitter account. And it was very much sort of like a bit David versus Goliath, that you were the underdog heading into this one. Is that sort of how your fans are looking at this?
I think if you ask the older generation of fans, they slightly resent that this isn't a game or a group that we'd be winning. Like, you know, we used to going into groups with Juventus, Ajax, Atletico Madrid, you know. So Europa League over the years, it's been hard to stomach that we're not playing in Champions League. We used to qualify directly. It's not the case anymore. Is it David versus Goliath? It is, if you look at it from a money perspective. Like, if you look at I think that was the point that we were making.
I get that.
It was like, okay, you look at your transfer market value and it's like close to 500 million euro or something, compared to just under or maybe just above 100 million on our end. So in that sense, it is a little bit David versus Goliath. Or you could argue, on the other hand, actually, you know, you're David and we're Goliath in terms of European history. So, you know, I think those things are just things for chat and different interpretation. I think for you guys, what I'm really curious to see is, how are you guys going to stomach the atmosphere on Thursday? Because I don't think you've played in an atmosphere like the one that you're about to go into tomorrow. And that's not to say it's going to be anything like it was on Sunday, the shit show against Panathinaikos, because those local derbies are one thing. What happens in Greece is one thing. What happens in the European games is rather different, because in Europe you're sanctioned and the sanctions are enforced, and in Greece it's never mind. I won't go into that. It's not Europe, even if we are in the European Union.
I get that. Right. How do you see the game going tomorrow then?
I see a lot of goals. I think it's going to be quite an open game. Yeah, like that. Really, just looking at the way you play and your formation, I don't think you guys don't really play with a holding midfielder either.
And we do this season. Last season we didn't really. This season we do. We've got Edson Alvarez in from Ajax, so he'll sit in front of our defense now. So we've got one this season.
Okay, but like I look at players like Paquetá and Bowen, and knowing that they like to play inside a lot, I feel like there's going to be room for us to create from the wings, which is something we like to do. Like, you get players like Pedence or Fortunis that pick up the ball on the touchline and then they'll start driving inside and looking to make combinations. Particularly down that right-hand side, we've been very busy. If you look at our expected goal threat, a lot of it's coming down the right-hand side. Our right back, Rodinei, former Brazilian international, for me, should be getting calls up to the Brazilian national team. He's really lively. If he's up for it, which I expect everybody on our team is going to be up for it on a Thursday, they should theoretically be rested as well, because they only played 50 minutes on Sunday. The game was abandoned. Look out for him. Look out for Rodinei. Look out for combinations between Rodinei, Pedence, Fortunis on the right-hand side. That's something that we've been very good at doing, in unlocking defenses and getting into your penalty area down the right-hand side. The left-hand side hasn't been as good, because I said we've been changing our left back game to game. One is a left back that is right-footed, doesn't provide as much width as that. So that's Kinney. He's a veteran Spanish left back. And the other one is Francisco Ortega, who, again, is a relatively big money signing for us, €4.5 million from Argentina. left-footed, more traditional, likes to get forward, but it's his first season in Europe. He's I think 23, 24 years old, and he hasn't found the chemistry yet to cause damage down the wings. But yeah, man, I'm hoping for a good game. I hope it's exciting. I hope to see us get off on the front foot. Possession-wise, I have some statistics actually for you. This might be interesting for listeners too. So average possession that we've had in the last 2 games is 47%. Yours is 54%. Our expected goals are 4.24. Our goals for are actually 4. So we're on point.
Yeah.
And your expected goals is 4.3 and your actual goals is 5. So you've slightly overperformed. And get this, our expected goals against is 2.24 and we've eaten 5 goals.
Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
We've actually got one of the best expected goal against stats in the Europa League this season. So that, I think I alluded to it earlier.
Yeah.
The goals that we've eaten, they've all been from individual error or just shitty mistakes at the back. So if we can avoid that tomorrow and play as we did against Freiburg, I'm hopeful.
Well, it's time to get your crystal ball out then, Costa. Can I get a score prediction, please?
Do you want one score prediction or do you want a realist one and a hopeful one?
The one you think will happen.
I think 2-2. 2-2 if I'm being between realism and optimism, like a high-scoring game over 2-2 for me.
Would you be happy with 2-2, or is it a little bit, because you've only got 1 point thus far. You need points on the board here, don't you? Or is that just enough to keep you above TSC so that you can then get third and go into the Conference League?
Yeah, and this is my realism coming out now. It's just, I think we need to get points on the board, and I don't see Topola really picking up points in the other games. I think for us, the third place will be determined in the last game of the season, which is against Topola at home. If we don't win that, then we don't deserve to be anywhere. Yeah. So, if we nick a point tonight, I think it's good. Of course, we want to win the game. We haven't won a group stage game for longer than I can remember. I think it was Red Star 3 or 4 years ago. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And, the crowd's going to be raring for it. If we start the game well, it's like the atmosphere is really something. And I heard it from Tottenham fans that were there 2019 season Champions League. They went 2-0 up. We scored, we clawed one back just before half time, and then we came out second half, equalised. And believe me, it's one thing when the West Ham fans, I think there are going to be close to 1,600 West Ham fans in the away end. When they look towards the other goal, they'll see the ultras, Gate 7. And they're the ones that they sing during the whole game. Some of them don't even watch the football. They're just there to sing and go crazy, do their thing. It's when you get the rest of the stadium to up the noise, is something else. It's not a big stadium. It's 33,000 seater, but it's very close to the pitch. And when the team's playing well, the noise is incredible.
Love that. Anyway, Costa, thank you very much. You guys at home have enjoyed this preview. Please do drop a like, comment, subscribe to Hammers Chat. You can find more from Costa and his friends over at Gate 7 International. I'll put the link to their YouTube channel in the description below, as well as their latest video will be on your screen in approximately 3 seconds. Click it, go have a watch, and we'll catch you in a bit.